Howdy and welcome to my channel. If you saw the title, then you know what we're going to get into. We're going to get into the 5 destinations that I think Lamar Jackson can go to if he leaves Baltimore. Now, let me preface this by saying everything to me looks like Lamar Jackson loves being in Baltimore. So, with that being said, there's his love for Baltimore, but there's also the fact that who wants to lose a player like Lamar Jackson? So, I'm going to preface this by saying that I think that the Baltimore Ravens will franchise tag Lamar Jackson so that he cannot go into any contract talks with anybody else. But if the situation somehow arises that he can go elsewhere, these are 5 teams that I think that he can go to or will at least think about going to, or that makes kind of sense. The first team I want to talk about is the New York Jets. The New York Jets are a really enticing team, and the reason why I mentioned them first is because I think they will be hyperactive in trying to get Lamar Jackson. I think that they're going to pull out all stops. Zach Wilson, hands down, led them astray. Like, if he would have progressed how he should have, then there would be no conversation about Lamar Jackson. On top of that, I'm one of the people who thinks that Zach Wilson should not have gone above Justin Fields. Justin Fields did not show any reason as to why he should have dropped in that draft, in my opinion. But that is just my opinion, and I had to stick with that. But with that young offensive line that they had, they were actually banged up, so they had to bring in, I don't want to say Dwayne Brown, but I believe it was Dwayne Brown. And I think that offensive line will progress this coming year, so I think he'll have a great offensive line. He also has Tyler Conklin as his tight end, along with C.J. Uzomah, who they brought in last year. Along with the 2 tight ends that they have a young Breece Hall, who will be coming off an ACL tear that he suffered in late October. But I think he should be ready by the time the season starts. And he was a young, dynamic running back. Like, he did so great in his time there. So, with that being said, let's get to the receiving core. He has a Garrett Wilson. He has the vet in Corey Davis. He also has Braxton Berrios. And you still got Elijah Moore. You have so many options. This will hands down be the best receiving core that he will have since college. And even college, they don't match up. So he'll have the good young offensive line that should be signed for a while. So that gives them a nice championship window. But you go to a hyper-competitive AFC East that will feature Buffalo, that has Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox, that defense that they have. You also have Miami, who is on the up and up. They have a good defense. They have a nice young safety, Javon Holland. You have Phillips. You have Bradley Chubb now. Like, there's so many weapons that they have. Then you got Tua. If Tua could progress and stay healthy, you seen what he did when he was actually healthy and playing well. He led the league in passing yards for the games that he had played before everything started going downhill. But yeah, you go to a hyper-competitive AFC East, and that's the only downside to it. But otherwise, you got good running backs. You got Michael Carter, who is the backup, and you could literally take that run game up the next level. With their stats, you have the Jets were 15th in passing yards with 219 passing yards. With the rushing yards, they were tied for 25th with 99.2. And their total yards per game was 336.8. And that was 24th in the league. With the Lamar Jackson, you got to understand that he will open up so much more for that offense. That offense will get 10 times better. The rushing yards will go up because he's one of the top rushing quarterbacks of our age. Like, even almost better than Michael Vick at this point. And with the points per game that they put up 17.4 points per game. That was good for 4th worst in the league at 29th. And they ended up being 28th with 34.6 on the third down conversions. If you look at the Giants and you look at the Eagles, a lot of the times when they got their third down conversions, it was because they had a quarterback that could run. Daniel Jones was pretty good at faking it and dipping. And Jalen Hurts was good at also fighting for the first down as well. So with Lamar Jackson, you got to understand that the third down conversions will go up, and you give him the best receiving core that he's had, and he's going to be able to pass better. He'll actually be able to show you what he can be as a passer. Baltimore, although they brought in Rashad Bateman, you have Mark Andrews. He still just relied on Mark Andrews too much. You have too many injuries at that wide receiver position. You got too many inconsistencies at the wide receiver position. And then Hollywood Brown was the best wide receiver he had. He went over 1,000 yards, and after that, he was shipped off to Arizona. So I can see a lot of things going well if he goes to the gang green. The next team we have on our list is the Atlanta Falcons, who on this list of teams was actually the third rated rushing offense in the league. They had 159.9 rushing yards per game. Good for third, but the only issue is they had more rushing yards per game than they had per passing yards per game. They had 158.9 passing yards per game, and that was 31st in the league. Terrible. I don't know what happened, but even though Drake London went over 800 yards last year, it still just didn't seem like they had enough. But that's mainly because they had Marcus Mariota and they had Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder is an unknown, and Marcus Mariota, he played well in the beginning of the season, but as the season progressed, he didn't progress. So that's where the issue came in with Marcus Mariota. And everybody knows Marcus Mariota could run the ball, but he's no Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has an arm on him. So I think you'll get a lot more from Drake London. You'll get a lot more from Kyle Pitts. You see what he's done with Mark Andrews. So Lamar Jackson with Kyle Pitts and Drake London, that'll be good. The offensive line, they were good in run blocking. I don't think they were as good in pass blocking. I'm sorry that I don't have the stats for that. But this is a team that was ranked 26th in the league in total yards. They also were tied for 15th with points per game at 21.5 points per game. I think that all those stats go up with Lamar Jackson. I don't think it's as enticing as an opportunity as going to New York and playing for the Jets, but you go to a weak division and you could really compete early on, but it just really depends on what they do. They don't have as good of a defense as the Jets. That's one thing I didn't mention. The Jets do have a really good defense, and their head coach used to be a defensive coordinator, so he led 49ers to a great defense. So it was just known that he was going to lead that team to a good defense. But the Falcons, they have A.J. Terrell, and I'm not going to lie, I cannot name too many names off that defense. But if they can get better on defense, I think it'll be better that their offense isn't getting off the field as much as they are. Okay, my third team is a team that I am not willing to. I don't want to see Lamar Jackson go to this team. You see, I got the Eagles in the back. What team in our division needs a quarterback? Do not say the Giants. The Giants are doing well. Daniel Jones has gotten them to go against us in the divisional round, so we have to worry about that. The one team who is really unsure about quarterback in our division is the Washington Commanders. If Lamar Jackson doesn't want to leave Baltimore because he loves Baltimore, he doesn't have to go too far to go over to Landover, Maryland and play at FedEx. Hopefully they do something about FedEx Field, but that's a different topic for a different video, possibly. But if Lamar Jackson goes to Washington, he hands down to get the best receiving core that he can get out of the list of teams that I'm going to name. You get Terry McLaurin. We know what we get out of Terry McLaurin. You got the best hands in the draft, in his draft, in Jahan Dotson, and you have Curtis Samuel, who he's shown what he could do when he's healthy. So if he can stay healthy, keep that hamstring looking good, I think he'll be good. You have a decent O-line. The O-line, I know a lot of people are going to point to the sacks allowed, but in all reality, they faced a lot of injuries. So if they can fight back those injuries and be healthy, you'll see exactly what they can do with that team. And then you also have a Brian Robinson running the ball. He's a powerful, man, big, strong boy. And then you got Antonio Gibson, who could also run the ball, but he could catch the ball as well. So you give him unlimited possibilities if he goes to Washington. And then along with that, they have a great defensive line. You got Cam Curl on the back end. Like, that team has such a good chance of being good if they can get the quarterback situation corrected. So if you give them Lamar Jackson, it throws all the defenses in the NFC East for a loop. And I can't see why they wouldn't end up making the playoffs the next year if they get him. Like, that's such a good fit for me. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our fourth team. All right, for my fourth team, this is not a team that I'm actually viewing Lamar Jackson go to, but there are some upsides to it. So, in the fourth team that I'm going to bring up, it is the Tennessee Titans. They play in the weak AFC South, where the Jaguars won the division by going 9-8. That's no shade to the Jaguars because I like Dougie P, but that division is easily winnable had Tennessee had a better quarterback. I believe they were 7-4 and then finished the season 7-10. You lost 6 straight, and if you were 7-5, okay, it makes it look better that you lost 5 straight. But I'm pretty sure they were 7-4. Probably the number 3 team or number 4 team in the AFC at that time, and then everything just went downhill. So the reasons why I think he will go there, I think Mike Vrabel has really coached his team as well as he can. The reason why he wasn't fired and the GM was fired was because the team is well coached, but I think they're playing above their capabilities, in my opinion. That team wasn't that good. Nobody feared that team. Maybe it's because Ryan Tannehill, but they played hands down better with Ryan Tannehill. You see that they won, no games when Ryan Tannehill went out? But an upgrade is obviously needed. You have Robert Woods, and I know people probably going to be like, why is he mentioning Robert Woods as a reason why he would go there? Robert Woods is not a bad receiver by any stretch of the imagination. And on top of that, out of all the wide receivers, he consistently is rated as one of the best rush blocking, one of the best blocking wide receivers. And you have a Derrick Henry, so you really got to keep your eyes open. Like, if it can go to Derrick Henry, it can go to Lamar Jackson, who can run the ball. You never know what's going to happen. You got Traylon Burks, who can get a lot of yards after the catch. So it's a fun team to look at. The offensive line isn't as good as it could be. So that's why I'm not saying that they're a really enticing team. So let's not put it out there like that. But if I look at some of the stats from the Titans, we have a team that was 30th in passing yards at 171.4. You have a team that was 13th, though, in rushing yards at 125.4. And that's them relying solely on Derrick Henry, who was the third leading rusher, or maybe he was the second leading rusher this year. But I should have did my stats on that. I'm sorry. That's one stat I should have got. But, yeah, that Tennessee team would be so much better with Lamar Jackson, but it's not as enticing as a Commanders team, and it's not as enticing as a Jets team. Before I move on to my next team, though, I want to name some honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay has to go into the offseason worrying about Tom Brady, I don't think Tom Brady comes back. I think it's over for him, but even if it's not over for him, I think it's over for him in Tampa Bay. So if Tom Brady leaves Tampa Bay, you have a decent O-line over there. I'm just going to say a middle line. I'm not going to say that they're too great, but with good coaching and good additions, maybe they can be great. They have a good defense, in my opinion. They did not play as well as they could have this year, but they do have a good defense. But the main thing that I would want to see Lamar Jackson do if he goes to Tampa Bay, he has a Chris Godwin. You have a Mike Evans. You probably still have a Cam Brate, but just having Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is good enough. Maybe you can throw Julio back in there, but I don't expect much from Julio at this point in his career. The next honorable mention I have is I put Oakland Raiders. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. We have the Las Vegas Raiders. If I'm Lamar Jackson, I don't even consider Las Vegas unless they re-sign Josh Jacobs. Now, to re-sign Josh Jacobs, you probably have to trade Darren Waller, and I'm actually pretty fine with that. I would say if you can keep a Devontae Adams, you can retain Josh Jacobs, maybe franchise tag, and then give the contract over to Lamar Jackson, and then work out however you can work out with Josh Jacobs, I don't know, and then keep a Hunter Renfrow for the slot receiver. And I didn't even think about this, but I said it last year, and I don't like recycling my thoughts, but maybe you can get an Odell Beckham to be the number 2 receiver. I'm not sure, but they're probably not going to have enough money for that, and that defense is trash, so it's not likely that happens. So our next honorable mention, and our last honorable mention, I'm not going to go too deep with this, is the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints have a good O-line. You have Alvin Kamara, who can run the ball and catch the ball. You have I'm over here pointing at my hand down here. You have a Chris Olave. You have a Michael Thomas if he gets healthy. Even if he doesn't stay healthy for the year, just having him for a little bit will be fine. And then you also have a Jarvis Landry. So you have your number 1 receiver, who I'm going to say is Chris Olave going forward. You can view Michael Thomas as your number 2 receiver because I'm pretty sure he's going to be 30 at that point, and he's coming off 3 straight injury-riddled seasons. He could be a number 2 at that point. And then you have your slot receiver in Jarvis Landry. I think you have a Jawan Johnson as a tight end, too. So let's go ahead and put him in there. And then you have a defense with Marshawn Lattimore. You still have Cam Jordan. That defense is still playing well. And you can see it towards the end of the season. Towards the end of the season, I want to say the last 7 games, they didn't allow a single opponent to get over 17 points. And they harassed my Eagles when we played. Granted, we had Gardner Minshew playing, but come on. That Eagles offense, that either proves that my man Jalen Hurts should be MVP, but I feel like we could have did some more in that. And Marshawn Lattimore got that touchdown, that pick 6 to pretty much seal the game. So you can see the upside if he goes there. But they're in salary cap hell, if I believe I'm right. But that's just an option for him. Now, the last team was a team that I mentioned in my first video on this channel. It is the Indianapolis Colts. The reasons why I say that is because I feel like their offensive line, they had played well for like 3 years prior to this garbage year. Oh my goodness, this was such a bad year for them. If I'm correct, I saw that their offensive line was rated 10th 2 years ago. So last year, I saw at one point during the season they were ranked like 30th, but I don't think that was their ending ranking, so I'm not going to say what their ending ranking was. But I could see a resurgence from that offensive line. And if that offensive line could have a resurgence, and that defense could have a resurgence with their players coming back healthy, then I could see them doing some things and actually getting somebody. But I wouldn't be, if I was Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't go inside and know who the coach is. It really depends on who they hire as a coach, who they hire as the offensive coordinator. Like, you really got to trust what they're going to do. But you still have oh my goodness, you still have a Jonathan Taylor. You still have a Michael Pittman. You have a Alec Pierce, who is on his rookie contract still, along with Michael Pittman, if I'm correct. And you still have a Mo Alley Cox. So that's a decent offense that you will be going into. And I can really see them doing some things. They can make some noise. Like I said, with the Titans, it's the weak AFC South. So those are the 5 teams that I think he can go to. When it comes in terms of contracts, you have a Deshaun Watson who signed a 5-year, $250 million contract. At the time, it was 46. It's 46 million average. So Deshaun Watson has never been. He barely been to the playoffs. He got to the AFC Championship game once, and he's never been an MVP, such as Lamar Jackson. He broke franchise records for Houston, but he didn't break NFL records like Lamar Jackson did for his rushing and for total yards and stuff. Well, I don't think he broke a total yards record, but for rushing yards, for sure he did. Broke Michael Vick's record. First quarterback to go 2 straight years with 1,000 yards rushing, along with like 3,000 yards passing. So you have that in mind, and then you also have the contract that was given out to Russell Wilson. Man, what is it? 5? Was it 5 years? 5 years, $242 million. So that's what you got to expect to beat. If you're going to sign Lamar Jackson, you can try to get him to like a 4-year fully guaranteed contract, or at least $200 million in guaranteed. But you want to break. He's going to want to beat those records that they got. He wants to beat a Kyler Murray. He wants to beat out a Russell Wilson and a Deshaun Watson. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I don't think that he is going anywhere. I think that he will be franchise tagged. I don't think he's the type of player who's going to hold out for too long. He may hold out of the non-mandatory stuff, but I think he'll report to camp and he will play under the tag if he has to. But he will discuss a long-term contract with Baltimore as long as he can. So these were just destinations that I think that he can go to, and I think it'll be cool to see him go to some of these destinations. And the honorable mentions was just because, you know, there's a lot of teams in there that need football players. I mean, that need quarterbacks. So you have a conundrum in San Francisco. They got 3 quarterbacks that 2 of them could be leaving for a new team and could be starters on a new team. We're not going to get into that, though. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me what you think about the teams that I mentioned. Tell me about the rankings that were mentioned. Tell me about what you think he could do. And I like to really hear from you guys, and I hope that you guys like, subscribe, and share, and give me some ideas for videos that you might want to see, because I'll be willing to look into it and see if I can make the video for it. So I'll see you guys next time. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share for your boy, and tune in. There should be a video coming out soon.